Great. Thank you everyone for joining us for September's Lunch and Learn. My name is Amanda Castañeda. I'm the Archaeology Director for Shumla. It's nice to see everyone here. I have the pleasure of introducing today's speaker, Dr. Diana Rolon. She's going to be talking to you today about how Shumla organizes all of the vast amounts of data that we collect from the many rock art sites that we work out. She's going to be talking about our rock art graphic databases. So with that, I will hand it over to Diana.
Okay, thanks, Amanda, and hello, everyone. Welcome to this Lunch and Learn. Thanks for joining us. I'm happy to be here again, sharing information. And today I'll talk about the Shumla's rock art graphic database. It's a documentation, it's a method that combines digital illustrations and databases. The goal is the documentation of pictographs in the Lower Pecos in Texas. And today I'll explain, or I'll provide a general overview of the graphic database's evolution, and I'll talk about the current method. And the plan is to walk you through how to create the graphic database from start to finish. So let's jump into the presentation. So here, to demonstrate the evolution of the method, you will see here 3 ways of illustrating figures. The first image on the left shows the beginning of the system in 2007, when illustrations consisted of freehand drawings made on site. The second image in the center shows us an improvement implemented in 2010, when the illustrator traced figures from high-resolution photographs using a light table. The third image on the right shows a turning point in the process between 2013 and 2015, when Shumla began producing digital illustrations using the high-resolution photographs, an interactive pen display, and Adobe Photoshop. You can see here 3 illustrations. It is the same figure illustrated using different tools in different moments. So the first one, the freehand drawing illustration, reflects the artist's perspective. We can say that this is more subjective and depends on each person's drawing skills and strengths. The light table tracing using an illuminated photo improved the illustration because it added the scale and detail, although the illustrator still had to trace through the paper, so you can see the difference. But finally, the introduction of the pen display marked a turning point in the illustration process, not only because of the high-resolution images with scale, but also due to the option to draw directly on a screen with a natural pen-on-paper feel and pressure sensitivity. The adoption of Adobe Photoshop enabled the production of rock art graphic databases. So here we can see the difference and the evolution of the illustrations. Currently, the method combines graphic and analytical data using a standardized and replicable process, ensuring consistency across multiple sites, supporting updates, and the integration of new data. The rock art graphic database consists of 2 complementary parts. In the first part, Shumla uses Adobe Photoshop to organize the rock art illustration and analysis results in corresponding layers. This includes high-resolution and color-enhanced photographs, sketches, color sequencing, as well as results from digital microscopy, portable X-ray fluorescence spectroscopy, and radiocarbon dating. The second part is when Shumla collects attribute data and fully describes each figure in a complementary Microsoft Access database file. But why we need high-resolution images? To take full advantage of the interactive pen display and the Adobe Photoshop software, Shumla works with these high-resolution images, which allow precise illustrations and detailed depictions of the figures. Shumla most often uses figure photography with scale to illustrate the main figure and surrounding ones. A close-up helps us to zoom in and observe details. However, we also use gigapanoramas to illustrate multiple figures and their relationships extensively. Although, due to the natural curve of the shelters, sometimes the gigapans have distortion at the edges, and the figures can look tilted. So we have to avoid that if we want to use gigapanoramas to illustrate figures. So here you can see how Shumla staff use different cameras depending on the type of image that we need. For example, we create gigapanoramas from hundreds of overlapping photographs taken with a robotic gimbal system, which precisely moves and repositions the camera between shots. For close-ups, we take individual photographs of the figures. Both gigapanoramas and figure photos demand the use of a tripod. It is essential during the photography process because it keeps the camera stable, preventing camera shakes, which can cause blurry images, and allows us to level the equipment properly. This ensures a straight and consistent horizon, which is nearly impossible to achieve with handheld photography. So, once we understand the evolution of the method and the types of images we need, let's begin with the step-by-step explanation. First things first, we open a new project in Adobe Photoshop. Each new project is structured with Shumla's graphic database workspace and presets, which include default folders to organize the information and ensure standardization. Layers are saved within these folders according to the type of data collected. For example, we have folders for photography, for illustration, and additional folders for microscopy, radiocarbon date information, notes, wall conditions, and the legend with the scale. We name each graphic database according to Shumla's file name conventions. In this example, we set up the required settings to illustrate an anthropomorph or human-like figure, the human-like figure number 8 in the rocker site named Jaguar Shelter. We use the site trinomial and the figure ID number, which is A008. Every time we select the same size, the same resolution, and the same color profile, just to keep consistency. We also follow standards for brushes and swatches. We consistently use the same color codes. We have green for microscopy, red for nodes, blue for fluorescence spectroscopy, black for sketches, yellow for radiocarbon, gray for the obscuring parts, and white for spots. Okay, for the first layer is created in the photography folder. The base photo can be either our original close-up photography or a gigapanorama. As mentioned earlier, the choice depends on the research goals. Close-ups are used to document the main figure and its nearby associated figures, while gigapanoramas are used to capture the main figure along with its the relationships or the other figures in relationship with it. Today, we will use a Gigapanorama to include more figures in the explanation. So the original photo has a copy to protect it from editing. We can also look at layers to ensure that they are not writable. So here, our layers are protected and we can't write anything on them. The next layer in the photography folder is a color calibrated photo. We use Adobe Lightroom Classic and a color checker passport to correct and calibrate the image. This professional technique ensures accurate and consistent colors in photographs. In Adobe, Photoshop layers can be hidden or unhidden as needed to, allowing us to choose the best image for tracing the illustration. So here we can see hidden and unhidden layers and the layers protected. The last layers in the photography folder are color-enhanced photos created with DStretch. We add as many layers as needed. In our example, we have 2 enhanced photos. These processed images use a technique that separates color channels to reveal faded or nearly invisible features that are difficult to see with the naked eye. Here we are using an enhanced image with DStretch and the color filter is GBK. Once we finish with the photography folder, we move on to the illustration folder, which has several layers. First, we add sketches of each figure, 1 layer per sketch. We overlay these outline layers to define the overall composition and establish the boundaries of the pictographs. In this example, we can see A8 as the main figure under the analysis and its associated figures such as E13, A9, A10, A11, A12, A18, A19, and E12. Oh, and E2 on the left. But the main figure is A8. Now it's time to add color layers. With digital illustrations, we can reproduce the original colors as accurately as possible. To do this, we use a tool to sample the color from anywhere in the image. Here, we can see the illustration with no background. And it is important to mention that each figure has its own black layer. So once we finish with the black, we move on to creating layers for the red color. You can see here that we use the same approach of 1 layer per figure. And we now include the red and the black and the red. In this illustration, the final color is yellow. Some murals also include white, dark red, or orange paint. And in those cases, we create separate layers for each color as well. But in this case, we have just black, red, and yellow. So the full figure illustration also includes additional layers, such as spalling, obscuring, and natural features. That information helps us to document the current state of the gradation of each figure. Up to this point in the graphic database, we've completed the coloring for documentation. However, we still needed to add the microscopy and radiocarbon results to their proper folders. Shumla incorporates additional analysis results into separate layers. This may include digital microscopy, radiocarbon, and PXRF when the data is available. Not always we have Px or F, but once we collect it, we can add it. In this slide, you can see me and Dr. Fell conducting the microscopy analysis and Dr. Stillman collecting samples. If you look closely, you will notice that I'm holding a portable microscope which allows us to capture high resolution or high quality images magnified between 50 and 200 times, while Dr. Daring is saving the images using a tablet connected to the microscope. And here, if you are wondering whether holding the same position for minutes hurts, the answer is yes, but it's fun. For each microscopy spot, we include a green circle to mark the precise analysis location, a green label with data about the location and stratigraphy, a clear microphotograph showing the stratigraphic relationships, and a photo of the form. Similarly, for each sampling location, we use a yellow circle to indicate where the sample was collected, a yellow label with relevant information, and a clear photo of the spot. Here we have this location with the green, and this is the photo micrograph showing how the yellow is over the red. Following the protocol, we add each microscopy location and each radiocarbon sampling location in separate layers. In this example, I'm analyzing the intersection between the yellow of A18 and the red of A8. In Adobe Photoshop, we arrange the layers according to the stratigraphic results following the original painting sequence. So you can see here, I'm holding the scope right here, and it corresponds to this location. And this is the photo, yellow over the red. The full figure illustration includes 55 layers, sketches, color, spalling, obscuring, notes added by the illustrator, microscopy results, radiocarbon results, and figure IDs. As you see, we can include as many layers as we need. By hiding or unhidden layers in Adobe Photoshop, we can create different final illustrations. It depends on the research goals. For example, in this slide, we want to present the main figure in color and keep the associated figures in a sketch. But other times we include the main figure or the primary figure with the secondary and tertiary figures in color to show their stratigraphic relationships. Here, we can see how A8 and A9 are interwoven. And with the illustrations, we can show that details. It depends on the research goals. So once the illustration in Adobe Photoshop is complete, Shumla continues with the second part of the process using Microsoft Access. This is the figure attribute data collection. We add a detailed analysis and description of each figure, recording over 151 attributes of each figure, along with its dimensions, some linked data, and photography details. To complete our graphic database, we write a description that includes more and more data and results about microscopy analysis and radiocarbon nodes. Jaguar Shelter is awaiting for X-ray fluorescence spectroscopy analysis. All the new data can be added once it becomes available. But for now, we have a description, a figure location, and the results of the analysis. Hmm. Okay, the figure database in Access also contains hyperlinks. For example, the hyperlinks to the Harris matrix and final illustrations. The Harris matrix is a way to diagram the stratigraphic relationships between the paint colors. The hyperlink is showing us how the yellow of A9 is over the two reds and the two blacks. So it follows the rule of always first the black, then the red, and then the yellow. So for my conclusion, the key features of rock art graphic database include consistency in the process, it reduces errors, and has the ability to support updates. In 2023, guided by new research questions, Shumla refined the analysis of stratigraphic relationships between figures and their interwoven colors, adding the secondary and tertiary figures. This evolution of the method helped us to analyze murals more carefully, interpreting them as compositions and study the color sequence associated with cultural significance. Another prominent strength of the Rocket Graphic Database is its role in digital documentation. It preserves pictographs and preserve them for present and future studies. And let us keep an eye in the deterioration of the figures through the time. It allows the researchers to choose layers of data depending on their goals. And the database also has the potential to be replicated beyond the lower Pecos in Texas to study different rock art styles. Finally, the rock art graphic database is designed as a living document. It remains open to new data, such as total station, measurements to georeference, figures on murals. It let us just add more hyperlinks to online resources such as 3D models or gigapans. So as you see, the graphic database let us add more and more layers if we have new data. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Diana. So I guess if anybody has any questions, you can type them into the chat, or you can just unmute yourself and ask away. Are any historical drawings integrated into any of our databases, like our Kirkland or H.E.
Kirkland.
Jackson?
Okay, it's not for now, but it's not a bad idea, actually. It's not a bad idea because with other draws, we can just compare. And many times we compare using Kirkland's illustrations, we compare the degree of deterioration. So it's not a bad idea to include it in the database as a separate folder. It will be
Yeah.
integrated easily.
Thank you, Dan. That's a good question and a good
Yes.
idea.
A good idea. We are always having that more and more and more layers.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, next question. Herschel Seals asked, who has access to the databases?
Every research that is interested in the study of rock art can get access to their database, and it's open for research, for researchers.
Yeah. One of our long-term goals is to have these sorts of data available, via like an online software or something that's more accessible. But right now, if a researcher wishes to work with the data, they have to, fill out a research form and request data. But otherwise, yeah. You
Yeah,
just have to
and
have Photoshop, I guess.
yes,
It's able
the
to
thing
open the
is to
file.
know, no, yeah, the thing is to know how to use Photoshop, and that's it.
Yeah.
Oh, I see the chat
Uh,
now.
one more just came in. Joni asked, have any other pictographs in the country received this type of analysis?
Well, I think Shumla has a very innovative method to document the rock art in this way. And we discussed about this before because we saw in different presentations people using uh, Photoshop to illustrate pictographs and petroglyphs, but a method, properly name it a method following the rules, the presets, the default things, and keeping the consistency as a method, uh, I think is not. I didn't say it in other uh, places, but I saw several times presentations where the research is using Adobe Photoshop, but it's not following a method or as a system of documentation properly.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think that a lot of people have moved to digital illustrations because it is very helpful. Because
It
most of
is.
us are not gifted drawers.
Yeah, exactly.
Most of us aren't gifted artists, but
Yeah,
tracing on a light table we can do.
it's better.
Um, but
Yeah. If
um,
I personally, I create just Picassos.
yeah.
Like, so I prefer to
Uh,
trace in the pen display.
yeah. Dan asked, he said, you mentioned darker reds and even oranges. Roughly how many different paint color variations are there?
Well, we found orange and dark red. It's the variation that we found. The red and the dark red and orange, real orange. Orangey, like
Yeah.
Cheeto orange, we call it.
But it's fairly uncommon, would you say?
No, it's not uncommon.
Yeah.
It is common.
Yeah. And Dan, we've struggled over, or we shouldn't, I don't know if struggle, well, yeah, no, we've struggled over the years. Archaeologists have always gone, well, how, do you use a Munsell chart to identify the exact color, or do you do some sort of really standardized data color collection? And so Shumla's kind of done everything from being really hyper specific to dark red versus light red. Or
Yeah,
I think it depends on the type of questions you're wanting to ask of that data.
yeah. When we have two different reds, for example, it's easy to determine, or a little more easy to determine the stratigraphic relationship between both, because the light red and the dark red let us see better the which one is over and under which one. But sometimes if the red is red over red and it's the same red, it's impossible to see to determine which one is was applied first.
Any other questions? Uh, Someone asked, haven't you identified a green color?
Hmm, a green color.
A green paint? I think I've only seen green paint at one site in the Lower Pecos.
I've never seen green paint in the lower Pecos.
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, that's pretty uncommon. You see it more in New Mexico and even in Wyoming,
In
but very
Mexico.
uncommon in Mexico. Oh, I missed one. Kristen asked, how do you determine which colors should be placed in specific areas? I'm guessing on the illustration.
On the illustration, um, just basically because I'm just mm, tracing, following the boundaries of the paint, following the figure, and just making a copy or trying to keep as accurately as possible the areas where the paint is visible. Sometimes we have areas with spots when we are not sure that the paint is gone, but following the shape of the figure that we know that, for example, the body continue or of the arms, if we have a spot here, we can just using a line to connect to the two spots.
Another question just came in. What do the large gray areas on the image represent? So like on the example shown right now.
Oh, with the scale we can see is like maybe like 2 meters approximately. Let me see. I can use the scale.
Oh, and then the large gray areas. What are those big blobby gray areas representing?
Mm,
Like
the
all the,
gray areas. Oh, okay, sorry. Those are representing obscure areas where the paint is the wall or the rock has some dust or accretions, and it makes the paint obscure or the rock obscure. It makes the rock obscure.
Mhm.
Are the different shades of red achieved by heating the ochre?
It is possible. It is possible to mixing things or using different temperatures to create different colors.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say that's something we don't have a good handle on yet in terms of paint recipes and
Mhm.
different minerals or ochres and what that means when you heat treat, how to achieve different colors. That's something I think I know Karen's really interested in looking at that chemically.
Yeah.
Would you consider orange a fifth color, or there's primarily just the four, and then the orange would be like a variation of the yellow or the red?
I totally believe that we can consider it like a fifth color, and always thinking that the colors have meanings, are associated with moments in the myth, with meanings. So they follow a specific order because they are creating stories, and the story, it depends of the moment of the story, the color they are using. So I totally think that the orange is part because it's sandwiched between the red and the yellow. So it is part of the story and has a meaning, and it's one more color in the list. On the list.
What mineral did they make the white color from?
Or is the name
Jimson?
Gibson.
Yeah.
Thank you. I don't remember the name.
Okay, I guess going once, going twice for any final questions. If the question is, do we go cross-eyed when we create these? Yes, we do.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Well, I guess if anyone else has any questions, please feel free to reach out to Deanna. And we just want to thank you so much for joining us today.
Yes, thank you. I hope the presentation was clear, and I wanted to express the step by step for you guys. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.